Now to Washington and the fallout of what appears to be a major security breach. A journalist with The Atlantic magazine says he was accidentally added to a group chat on an unclassified messaging app with top government officials. They were discussing plans for a military strike against Houthi rebels in Yemen that took place earlier this month.
Well, for a while in this process, I didn't believe that this was an actual national security chat. I assumed that I was being spoofed or hoaxed or being included in some kind of disinformation campaign, because it was simply too improbable to me that they would have such poor operational security as to inadvertently invite the editor of The Atlantic into a national security discussion about the timing of a bombing campaign. It was only on Saturday the 15th of March when I received a text in this chain with forthcoming operational details of the Yemen strike, and then I waited a couple of hours to see if it actually happened, and it did. That's when I realized that, oh, this is almost certainly a real chain of national security officials talking to each other on a commercial app.
On this text chain, conversations went at length about imminent military operations, including specific targets, weapons, and attack plans. These text messages very likely included classified U.S. intelligence. And the entire time, nobody seemed to realize that a private citizen without security clearance had access to this conversation. Mr. President, this is one of the most stunning breaches of military intelligence I have read about in a very, very long time.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective, I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence, we will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly. I've heard I was characterized, nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
However, in the case of this Atlantic issue that we've seen, the challenge is very much more around a human failure than a technology failure. And this is typically often the case with security breaches. It's rarely the technology that lets people down. It's actually the decisions of the people using the technology that cause the problems. Signal is regarded as being very, very secure. It has end-to-end encryption. It keeps very limited data around users, and it's rigorously tested, and many security experts see it as a go-to platform. But of course, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the ideal place to be transferring any kind of secrets. And of course, any platform is always going to have some kind of vulnerability potentially. But in this case, it's just an example of where human error has resulted in messages being shared to people they shouldn't have gone to, and that really was nothing to do with the technology.